Oh, it's the day. It's the day. It is what everybody's been waiting for, whoever's an NBA fan. The day of free agency. It opens up at 6 today, officially, in terms of signing players, all that stuff. It's going to be an entertaining one because a lot of people opted out of their contracts. A lot of people are looking to get traded, and some are just up in the air of where they're going to go. But man, before we get into the video though, if you enjoy NBA content or NFL content, I put it out every week. It's what I love to do right now. If you can drop a subscribe and a like so more people can see it, I would greatly appreciate it. But to get into it, I do think this is going to be one of the more entertaining ones that we've seen in a while. Kyrie Irving is at the top of the list right now in terms of just overall curiosity because nobody really knows where Kyrie Irving is going to go. He doesn't just display it out to the world. That he prides himself off of that. But a lot of people do think that Dallas is going to re-sign him. They do have his bird rights. He is an unrestricted free agent, though, so he can choose to go wherever else without even telling Dallas. Draymond Green opted out of his contract, but they did just let go of Jordan Poole. So letting go of Jordan Poole for nothing and then still giving up Draymond Green. But again, unrestricted free agents. Draymond Green can go wherever he wants to go. I personally think he's going to be going to Sacramento. Me personally, that's what I think is going to happen just because he can bring so much to that team and could possibly push for a championship with that team because of how many young players and young stars they have on that team that just need some veteran leadership like Draymond Green to really give them that push in a playoff game. Chris Middleton opted out. Not a lot of people think he's going to go somewhere else. I mean, he is at the top of the small forward list as a small forward one right here. But bird rights again, the Bucks can go over the cap to get him. I think they will. I don't think they try to risk getting somebody else like Damian Lillard. I mean, they could do it with a sign and trade situation with Chris Middleton, but I think that's like at the same level as what Miami could give up. I mean, we're going to get into that for sure, but we'll go into specific teams. And specifically, I'm going to start off with the Miami Heat because that is my team right now. But Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, Kevin Love. Those are the three that's like, okay, we need to get them back. But Max Strus is already rumored to get a big contract from the Pacers. A 3-year deal. I think it's about like maybe $48 million for that. Gabe Vincent, I just saw that there was news that the Miami Heat offered him a contract around the $8 million zone, but that's backup point guard money. And he looks at himself as a starting point guard. So I don't think that made him very happy after that. Kevin Love, also another person that we would want to bring back, but rumors circulating about him leaving and going to the Lakers or another team like that. I wouldn't blame him. I mean, I'm sure they can pay him more. I'm sure that they can give him a lot more in terms of just being more competitive because with the way that the Miami Heat have been going about this offseason, they've been specifically focused on Damian Lillard when Damian Lillard doesn't even know where he wants to go. So that's a whole thing in itself. We'll go now position by position. So we talked about Kyrie Irving, Russell Westbrook. I think could be a surprise for a lot of people of where he goes. I didn't actually think that he was a free agent, but he is about to be 35 in about a half a year. He could just return to the Clippers. I don't know about Russell. I don't know about Russell Westbrook. I mean, I don't think he gets paid as much as he did before, definitely. But the Clippers don't have his bird rights, so that's another thing. D'Angelo Russell, I think he's going to return to the Lakers. I don't think it's going to be a situation where Kyrie is going to be going to the Lakers at all. I don't see the Dallas Mavericks making a sign and trade, and that's the only way that the Lakers possibly could do that for Kyrie because they don't have the bird rights on Kyrie, obviously. But D'Angelo Russell, I think they bring back. I think they try to bring back most of their cast from last year and try to run it back in a way, but still add some key pieces like possibly Kevin Love this offseason. Fred VanVleet could be getting paid. There has been something about him going to the Rockets or a older player going to the Rockets for a 2-year deal, but a lot of money. Eric Gordon just got basically the Clippers non-guaranteed his contract. So they basically just made him a free agent this year. They didn't want to pay him $16 million. I don't blame him. He can't stay healthy half of the time. He's not really that consistent anymore. So, yeah, Karis LeVert, somebody that the Cavs would probably want to bring back just because he's young. He can burst at any moment. Malik Beasley just got let go by the Lakers too. I mean, it's just a bunch of solid role players that could go to places that nobody would really expect them to for minimum contracts for like a year as a prove-it deal or something. Like Josh Richardson could be going back to the Heat in many circumstances, but it depends on his market for other players and such. But we'll go to forwards right now. Chris Middleton, like I said, I think he's going back to the Bucks without a doubt in my mind. Draymond Green going back to the Warriors could be a possibility. It's either Warriors or Kings. It's either he chooses to try to run it back with what he calls his brothers in Golden State. They're not going to have a lot. They let go of basically all of their young assets and all of their young players, and they just have Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson, which is a great trio, but Klay Thompson hasn't been the same since the year that he came back from injury. He was great that year, decently, but after that, he just kind of dissipated. And, I mean, that's aging. That's what it is. But going back to that, I don't know if you would want to in terms of what he can get paid by the Kings and what he can do for the Kings, or even the Rockets at that. But it depends on if he wants to be a leader in terms of a young locker room leader, because that's what he would have to be in both of those situations. Both of those teams have very young players, very, in terms of comparison to him, very immature with how much experience he has in the NBA and the NBA playoffs. So Jeremy Grant, another player that I think is just going to get re-signed by the Trailblazers. They have them money to in terms of the bird rights and just in general. They're trying to build around Damian Lillard, and with my non-biased opinion about his situation and Damian Lillard's situation, it seems like Dame doesn't know what he wants to do. He's a bit split on where he wants to go and how he wants to go about it. When there's people saying that his dream scenario is getting Jeremy Grant back and getting Draymond Green on the team, that doesn't seem like a very good dream scenario, just because Draymond Green is not the Draymond Green from like 2-3 years ago. He can spark. He can definitely spark, but he's not going to be that consistent defensive player that you always see. Then you got Kyle Kuzma, who could just be getting paid by a young team like Draymond Green, basically. I mean, he's still on the older side for a lot of these rookies and a lot of players like the Rockets rookies and stuff like that. And he could be good at the small forward or power forward position. He's a decent rebounder. He can definitely shoot the ball. I would love him on the Heat, but we don't have the cap space whatsoever to do anything in his free agency. Kelly Oubre Jr., supposedly he's played his last game with the Hornets. I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all, because he can't really stay healthy. And he kind of has like an ego trip most of the time. Dylan Brooks, by no circumstances, in quotes from the Memphis Grizzlies, and under no circumstances is he coming back to the team. And that's another one that I think the Rockets could pursue. They have a lot of players that they could get this offseason, especially with the $60 million in cap space that they have. I think they can do a lot. I think they can do a lot to add to their team. They need some defensive presence, and Dylan Brooks is a decent defensive presence if they're not able to get Draymond. Jay Crowder, already supposed to be going back to the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm not going to talk much about that. Dario Saric, I mean, it's Dario Saric, but probably going back to the Thunder. Centers, Brook Lopez. I would love to have Brook Lopez on the Heat, but I really do think he's going to go back to the Bucks. They have his play style like to a T there with Giannis and all that. Like they're pretty unstoppable at points with the both big men. If they're both hot, you already lost the game. Jakob Poeltl, I think he's just going to go back to the Raptors. Christian Wood, there's a lot of things going around about him getting traded by the Dallas Mavericks. I didn't know that he was a free agent necessarily. It could be a situation. I mean, even the Heat are in it, but now you have, I don't know why it's not here, but James Harden just got Well, it's because his player option was accepted. But James Harden just accepted his player option and could very well move on. So yeah, he's opting into his $35.6 million deal for next season in order for him and the 76ers to work together on a trade out of Philadelphia. So the Clippers and the Heat are expected to emerge as suitors for Harden. Now, as much as I would like another star next to Jimmy, I'm not sure if Harden is there anymore. Now, I'm sure if he comes to the Heat, he can bring that back because of the work ethic, just being as consistent as he can be. I think he can be ball dominant with the Heat and just show off. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't. But it depends on what we're giving up for him. I wouldn't necessarily give up that much, and I would take advantage of how inconsistent he has been for the last 2 years when trying to trade with the Philadelphia 76ers. In those talks, you're just like, look, he hasn't been the same Harden from the Rockets. He hasn't been the same Harden since even the Nets whenever he was able to be healthy. We can't give up one of our corner pieces like Tyler Hero, but we can give up a bunch of young assets, a bunch of young draft picks and stuff like that. We can give 3 draft picks, blah, blah, blah. Whatever they want to do. If it doesn't pertain to either giving up too many draft picks or giving up Tyler Hero, I'm okay with it. I think James Harden can run the one perfectly for our team and just be able to be ball dominant when he needs to be. We've seen that Jimmy Butler's able to do it, but to an extent. He does get tired. He's human. He is human. When he is hot, that's when he's not human. But you can see it after those type of games that he just can't do it anymore after that. Now, $35.6 million to take on, we would probably have to trade Kyle Lowry and a bunch of young players, and Kyle Lowry would be the main thing and the draft picks, because what else can we give up? Are we really going to give up Tyler Hero for James Harden? Possibly a 1-year rental of James Harden. I would rather give up unpredictable young players that we have, but they're under the Heat scouting and stuff like that, so we can talk about that, whatever. And then you give up Kyle Lowry, who's just a salary dump, but he could still very well be good next to Joel Embiid at the starting point guard position and be a young leader for them. But for the Clippers, I think he can be good. I don't think they give up somebody like Paul George or Kawhi Leonard ever for that type of trade. I think it would be a lot of, if Terrence Mann is still on the team, they'll probably pack him up. I'm not sure. Let me look at the roster real quick. Robert Covington, Paul George, Bones Highland. It would probably be a Terrence Mann, Bones Highland, and a couple picks trade for them. So it's really like, you got to pick your poison. You got to pick your poison when it comes to those trades for James Harden. You're not going to get a lot for him just because of how inconsistent he has been. Could be a Marcus Morris situation. Norman Powell has been somebody that they've been wanting to let off. I think they would have to put Norman Powell in this because these 2 contracts are not going to match up to the James Harden contract. So it would probably have to be Marcus Morris, Norman Powell, and then Bones Highland and Terrence Mann. And I don't think they give up much of any picks for that. James Harden's an interesting situation. Damian Lillard is also another interesting situation. And this is why I say this is going to be one of the most entertaining ones, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. And it's to a level concerning. Survived too many storms to be bothered by raindrops. Interesting. Oh, they're trying to predict. So what this article says in terms of this free agency is begin contract negotiations with Vincent. Stay in contact with Strus, who expects offers in the range of $20 million per season. July 7th, sign Vincent using his bird rights to a contract in the range of $33 million over 3 years. Monitor Jeremy Grant's free agency. Grant heading back to Portland could extend Lillard's decision, while losing him could be the final straw for Lillard. Also watch Draymond Green. League insiders expect Green to re-sign with the Warriors, which would take a valuable veteran off the table for Lillard and the Blazers. Re-sign Love. Sign Dario Saric to a minimum contract. I wouldn't mind that at all. Strus signs with another team for a contract in the range of $48 million. Yeah, over 3 years. Haywood Highsmith for next season becomes fully guaranteed. Yeah, Haywood Highsmith is a great young player for the Heat. Allow free agency to play out while awaiting Lillard's decision. 10 days should be plenty of time for Lillard and the Blazers to sort out their business. Yes, the top free agents will likely come off the board, but the Heat aren't in play for them anyway because they don't have cap space. Yeah, so by holding on to Lowry's salary, the Heat also won't have the taxpayer mid-level exception available because of how much money we are paying Kyle Lowry. I don't know why we paid him $30 million for three years ago. I know that it was a Mickey Arison decision in terms of not paying Bradley Beal back then when he was in free agency, and he ended up re-signing, or the possibility of signing Bradley Beal in free agency that coming year. It's definitely difficult. I think Haywood is going to be a pivotal piece this next season. I think in general for the Heat, it's going to have to play out. It's going to have to play out to their favor. I don't know if Love is coming back. I don't. And I think that's when you have to go to Dario Saric and try to get him. He would be competing for the starting power forward spot because we don't have a lot of power forwards right now. I mean, Haywood Highsmith is pretty competitive with that spot and maybe even the small forward spot, and we can finally move Jimmy back to the shooting guard. But I would love to get Love back. If Jeremy Grant leaves the Trailblazers, then I think that's it. I think that's definitely it for the Trailblazers and Damian Lillard. I think that in any situation, I don't know why Jeremy Grant would go back unless he really just cares about the money, which I don't blame him. You can get a lot of money just going back to the Trailblazers. You won't really be as competitive as you want to be in terms of just going for a championship and things like that. But Jeremy Grant's a solid player. Jeremy Grant's very good whenever he needs to be. I think we really do have to sign Vincent, but a lot of things are circulating that he's not happy with how they came at him with an $8 million contract at first instead of a little bit higher. I'm sure it's a negotiating tactic for the Heat to try to kind of bring it down a little bit, make them think, oh, maybe it's just 10 mil. Like, I'll just take 10 mil for 3 years type of thing. But mid-July to August, sign outside free agents to minimum contracts. Targets at the price point could include Damian Lee, Seth Curry, Javon Carter, Corey Joseph, Jay Crowder, TJ Warren, Juan Tosco Anderson, Jeff Green, Torres Prince, and Wesley Matthews. Some of them will have agreed to terms by this point. So, yeah, I think for this hypothetical exercise, let's say the Heat sign Crowder, an option of power forward, and Matthews to replace Strus. If still no decision, so we'll take both players from the Bucks, basically. That's what they're saying. If still no decision by Lillard, begin actively shopping Lowry to create a salary cap relief. The Spurs and Clippers, if they strike out in free agency and on other deals, could potentially be trade partners. A Clippers deal could include Marcus Morris and Terrence Mann, while the Spurs could absorb Lowry into their cap space and send back smaller contracts like Doug McDermott and Kem Birch. Sometime in August, the Blazers have struck out on the offseason. Targets like Green and OG Anunoby cannot offer Lillard a chance to compete in the West. It's tweeted by an NBA insider close to the situation. Damian Lillard and Trailblazers have mutually agreed that parting ways is best for both sides moving forward. Blazers GM will work closely with Lillard to send him to a team. The Heat trade Hero Robinson/Lowry, Nikola Jovic, Jaime, first-round picks in 2028 and 2030, second-round picks in 2029, 2030, and pick swaps in 2027 and 2029 for Lillard and Jusuf Nurkic. So that's a big thing. That is a huge thing. The Trailblazers might, and I've seen this by maybe one insider, the Trailblazers might make the team that wants to trade for Lillard take that Jusuf Nurkic contract with them, which I don't know. I don't know, but I think I'll be willing to do it just to get Lillard on the team. And, you know, Lillard and Nurkic have their chemistry and stuff like that. You'll have Bam and Nurkic starting, which wouldn't be bad, but they're both undersized. It's if the Heat are able to pivot and get rid of Nurkic afterwards, but with the 30-60-90 rule, you can't do that immediately. You can't. I don't think you can, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can just like pivot and get rid of Nurkic immediately. But I wouldn't be against it. Pick swaps is fine. The first-round picks is fine. In reality, it's 4 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks for Lillard. And we are giving up a lot of young assets. I mean, Nikola Jovic rarely played last season. We just got Jaime, Hero, Robinson. I would rather Hero, Lowry, Jovic, Jaime. Because if we're giving up Robinson too, we have no shooting after that. We have absolutely no shooting after that other than Lillard. And that's going to be the same situation he had with the Trailblazers. Unless we get Wesley Matthews like they said, that's great. That's great. But the biggest issue with this hypothetical scenario is not being able to use a $5 million mid-level exception and the obvious risk of not getting Lillard at all. Either way, that exception likely isn't getting the Heat a starting caliber player this summer capable of tipping the scales next season. If the Heat don't land Lillard, they can waive and stretch Lowry and Oladipo before September 1st and still have that exception for the regular season. The Heat can trade Lowry or Duncan Robinson at any point in the summer and still have enough salary for a Lillard package. Waiting for Lillard somewhat limiting, but the risk is worth the potential reward. Yeah, so there's no... It's not like a situation that, oh, we're missing out on free agents if we wait on Lillard. We can't get them regardless. We can't. Our salary cap space is slim to none at this point. I mean, I think it's basically at the negative right now, and we just had the bird rights. But Miami Heat salaries totals 139, 171, 139. And then this is the year 2026 is when all the contracts are basically gone except for Tyler. And if we're able to get rid of Tyler, that year right there will be very good for us because we can just not rebuild, but just kind of pivot and get better pieces. And we're $3 million over. And knowing Mickey Arison, I don't think he'll be happy with being over the tax. This is what I wanted to see. This right here is what I wanted to see. So, like I was saying, Mickey Arison is not known to go into the tax. He asked LeBron in his prime to take a pay cut after he already took a pay cut to come to Miami. So basically, in 2014, when they were trying to re-sign LeBron, Mickey Arison asked him to take a pay cut so they wouldn't go into the luxury tax. Mickey is not a poor man. This is the owner of Carnival Cruise Lines. He is not a poor man. He's not. Lowballed Wade in 2016, letting him walk. Most of the time, Pat Riley's the one that has to take the heat for this, and it's a rough situation because he's not going to out the owner, which I don't blame Mickey for not wanting to pay it, but when you're in a league that most of the owners are doing that, I mean, you either do it or you sell the team. You can sell the team for a very high price right now, a lot more than what you got it for back then. Billions, easily. Refused to sign Beal because of tax. Like I said previously, didn't want to sign Beal, knew that he was going to go into the tax. He didn't want to go into the luxury tax. Considered waiving Lowry for tax reasons. There was news that came out that they wanted to waive Lowry and stretch his deal so they would be paying him throughout the years. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? After he had a pretty solid playoff run, why are we just going to waive him for no reason? Only for salary cap reasons. Only for that. Gave away 25-cent dish towels in the NBA Finals. I didn't know about that one, but that's insane. That's insane. Pat Riley had a hard time selling Mickey Arison on a Bradley Beal trade. Riley couldn't sell the owner on the tax consequences down the road. Said the exec it was a hard contract to move. Bradley might have been stuck in Washington if it hadn't been for the new guy in Phoenix wanting to make a splash. Which, I mean, it's a big splash for them, but they gave up a lot. They gave up a lot for it. The Clippers and Knicks are expected to be among the teams that engage with the Sixers on a potential James Harden trade. And then I think it was later on that the Heat are expected to show interest in James Harden, which I wouldn't be against. Like I said, I wouldn't be against it. This trio would be great. I think we can give James Harden a new type of spark in a way. I think, how old is he? How old is James Harden? 33. So he's actually not as old as I thought. That beard always confuses me, to be honest with you. I thought he was like 33 3 years ago, but he was 30 years old. I wouldn't be against it. I definitely wouldn't be against it. You have a scorer next to Jimmy. I don't know what they would give up. I really don't know. I'm curious to see what the comments are saying on this video, to be honest with you. I don't know if Harden is Heat culture material. They could have got him when he left Houston. Miami Heat needs a center. Go after Brook Lopez. Bam is a power forward. That's literally what I've been saying most of this time. I don't know why we don't go after a center like somebody like Miles Turner, who could be dealt from the Pacers. His contract is pretty hefty now. He has a 2-year, $40 million deal. So it's not horrible, but you would still have to give up some contracts, which you could very well give up Kyle Lowry to move to the Pacers. But I think it would probably end up being a 3-team trade and Buddy Hield going to the Lakers and hopefully Miles Turner coming to us. But I think he's like 7 foot what? Oh, no, he's 6'11", actually. He's a long 6'11". Pause. But he's a very solid 7'4" wingspan. He's a very, very solid center. He's very solid. I'm not against getting him. He's also kind of at the same age as Bam. They could be a deadly front court. I wouldn't mind it. He can also space the floor. It's insane. It's going to be an insane offseason in general. It's going to be an insane free agency in general. I would hate to be the one to say this, but I think it's going to be an intense free agency or an exciting one, and the Miami Heat could very well be on the outside looking in. And it just depends. I think Pat has to deal with a lot in terms of Mickey Arison not wanting to go into the tax and things like that. I don't know. But maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. But it's tough, man. It's tough. It is most definitely tough. But we're going to have to see how it plays out. The free agency opens at 6 o'clock today. If you enjoyed this video, please go down there, subscribe, and like so more people can see it, and subscribe so you can see this more often and you don't miss out on any more content like this. Let me know if you want me to talk more about the NBA and the free agency and do like a day-to-day recap, because it's going to be coming up this weekend, and I won't be against it. I'm going to be streaming tomorrow, so I will see you guys in the next video, though. Peace.